Curious about what it's really like to visit Antarctica? In this episode, I share my experiences and chat with fellow travelers from my recent HX Expeditions cruise to the White Continent. Together, we talk about the beauty and surprises of the journey and the practical information you'll want to know before you go.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Now, this week, Doug is here to interview me. So rather than me doing the usual and interviewing other people, Doug is actually turning the tables and chatting with me about my recent trip to Antarctica. Now, Antarctica was just one of those destinations that I never thought I'd get to. It was a kind of one day, maybe I'll get there. And really it just seemed, I don't know, from when I was a child, it just seemed like an amazing place to go, and believe me, it was. Anyway, when the opportunity came along to go to Antarctica, so thanks very much to Melissa for asking me to join her on this cruise, I just could not believe my luck and decided I absolutely had to go. Now, the trip took me from Brisbane to Sydney, then on to Santiago in Chile, then to Buenos Aires, and then down to Ushuaia before boarding an expedition ship bound for Antarctica and the Falkland Islands. Now, I travelled with HX Expeditions aboard the Roald Amundsen, which is an expedition-style ship designed specifically for polar travel, and what an amazing boat it was. Absolutely fantastic. So, in the first part of this episode, Doug and I are going to chat about what it was really like to plan and experience Antarctica, what surprised me most, and whether it lives up to its bucket list reputation. Then later in the episode, I'll also be sharing 2 short interviews with some of my fellow travelers who were on the journey with me to Antarctica from Queensland and Australia. So you're going to hear different perspectives on what it felt like to actually be there. And actually, David, I interviewed while we were on the boat, which was fantastic. And then Karen, when we arrived back into Queensland. So huge thanks to both of them for agreeing to come onto the podcast and be interviewed. Anyway, I'm going to hand over the mic to Doug and let him ask me all those questions that I'm sure you want to know the answers to about visiting Antarctica.
So I'm Doug Collins. I'm here today. I'm going to ask Tracy all about her fabulous trip to Antarctica she did recently.
You're going to interrogate me, aren't you?
I'm going to interrogate. I was not part of this trip for a very good reason.
I was going to say, why don't you share why you did not go to Antarctica with everybody?
Well, I might get a little seasick.
A little seasick. Doug sees a ship or boat or anything on the sea from the shore and gets seasick.
Yeah, my stomach objects to it violently.
Yeah, so there's the Drake Passage, which puts a lot of people off, would be one big reason why you wouldn't go on that boat. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about the Drake Passage in a bit
later. So I'm going to ask you some questions. We have prepared.
We have.
We're most likely
probably go off-piste.
Completely and utterly off, yes. So let's just start with, can you talk us through how you actually got there from Australia to Antarctica? Yeah,
it was a lot of flights. And for somebody who doesn't like flying, this was not a great thing because I was away, I think, 16 days or something, 18 days. And 2 of those days I spent most of them on aeroplanes. So I flew from Brisbane to Sydney, changed planes in Sydney to Santiago in Chile, where we just changed planes. So I cannot now claim to have been to Chile because I can't. And then I went to Argentina. So we landed in Buenos Aires. We stayed there for 1 night. Then the next day we got another plane. So this is how many now? 1, 2, 3. I've lost track. 4th plane, something like that.
That's pretty fast pace as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. Fourth flight down to Ushuaia. So obviously those flights vary in length. Yeah. With the longest one obviously being the Sydney to Santiago one. So that was getting down there in Ushuaia, spending the morning there before getting on the boat, and exactly the same in return, except we I had an entire day in Buenos Aires before flying to Santiago on one of the worst flights I've taken. Actually, on these, I'll have to just share because I don't like flying. The flight down from Brisbane to Sydney was awful. And the first flight from Santiago to Buenos Aires was lovely. It was one of the smooth, you couldn't even tell you when they are. And the views are beautiful of the mountains. I will share that because it was fantastic. But On the way back, it was one of those flights where they never take the lights off and none of the staff go up. It was horrific.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was not my fun flight. But the rest were fine. So 25% weren't great, but 75% were.
There's always that potluck with flights, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ushuaia. So that is the most southerly city in the world. So how did it feel to be at the end of the world?
Yeah, it was quite cool. I'd wanted to go to Ushuaia for a while because we saw it on a journey. Oh, what's that program that we saw where people
Race across the world.
Race across the world.
Yeah.
That's what we saw at Ushuaia and Race Across the World, and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I could not wait to go to Ushuaia. So I spent a morning there. The first day when we got onto the boat, and then on the way back we had longer there, so kind of explored it, went a bit off on my own, took some photos. There is a tourist place where you can go and get a stamp in your passport if you want to say that southernmost city in the world.
So you've got evidence to prove it.
Yeah, I have. It was, I'll tell you what, the one thing I remember about Ushuaia is how cold it was compared to Buenos Aires, because Buenos Aires was hot.
Oh, was
warm, certainly warm, like short sleeved, crop trousers kind of weather. It was cold in Ushuaia.
So what was the time of year that you went? What was the
November, so summer.
So summer, yeah.
But if you think how far south Ushuaia is, like I say, it's the southernmost city in the world.
Pretty south, yeah.
Yeah, it gives it away. Yeah.
So then let's talk about the ship. So what was your first impressions of the ship when you were boarding?
Well, it wasn't very big, thank goodness, because I follow quite a few people who do these cruises around the world, and I have to say, cruising, it does not appeal to me. I see these massive cruise ships, and to me, it doesn't look like a lot of fun. You know what? If you are PR for a cruise company and you want me to come and try one of these cruises to change my mind, feel free to invite me.
And actually change my mind as well. I'm not going to be seasick in every single trip I take.
Well, there you go. But definitely, but I don't know. So this was a small, I think it was 350 of us on board. So that was nice. Didn't feel, because I was a bit worried because I'm not a big cruise, as I say, cruise ship and me just don't, they're not something that appeals to me, to be honest.
Not yet, give it 10 years.
Yeah, okay, wait until I get a little bit older. But at the moment, no, not particularly. Anyway, so first of all, I'd never done it before. So a lot of people that I was traveling with my group had done cruises before, so they're kind of au fait with all the kind of stuff that goes on. I had no clue. I was really green. But yeah, cabin was really nice. It was small. I was sharing with a friend.
But did you spend a lot of time in the cabin, other than overnight, I'm guessing, but sort of daytime, I don't suppose you were there.
So I was sharing my cabin with Melissa, and so, which was great because, to be honest, neither of us spent a lot of time in the cabin because there was a lot of things to do and see on the boat itself.
Okay.
Except Melissa got sick, and then she was kind of stuck in the cabin for about 4 days because she wasn't very well.
Yeah,
exactly. But otherwise, to be honest, did not spend a lot of time in the cabin at all. Mainly just when you had to get togged up to go outside to do your landings, then you had to.
Once you finish the boat part, and then you arrive in the places.
Yeah.
And me being me, what was the food like? I'm just curious, really. What was the food?
Oh, I'm just going to actually mention one thing about the cabin, because I think we actually had a cabin with a balcony, and I am so glad we did, because so often I would just sit outside on my chair and just admire the scenery. And also I could watch people getting onto the Zodiacs when they were doing the landings from our side. So absolutely worth having a balcony.
You're about sitting out on the balcony once you arrived in places, not on the voyage across.
Oh, yeah. You could go out at any point. Probably wouldn't have done it when we're going through what was pretty much pretty hectic Drake Passage crossing. But
don't tell me too much about that. I've just had lunch.
But so the cabin was really good. Yeah, food was really good.
Yeah.
So some nights it was you sort of help yourself buffet, and other times it was a sit down menu. You could choose what you wanted. So there was 2 restaurants that we could choose from. So breakfast, lunch, and obviously dinner all provided. So breakfast was a buffet. Lunch, it depended on which one we decided to go to. The one had like things like hot dogs and burgers, and the other one had the buffet style.
Yeah.
And then the evening there was sometimes like themed nights with different types of food.
Yeah.
The food was really good though. I had no problems with that. Just had to watch not eating too much. I think that was an issue. And also like drinks were included. So when we went up to the top floors, like I can't remember the name of it, like a bar social area where you could sit and go and read your book and
like a quiet
just
zone.
relax. Well, it was really nice. I can't think of the name of it, but it was really nice. It was like a whole kind of length of the ship, and so I'd just go sometimes in the
inside
afternoon.
or was
on the top floor, and you could go out from that floor, and there was the saunas up there, and then you could go out onto the deck.
Saunas?
Yeah, the sauna was amazing. Just views straight like glass that you could see out, then there was a hot tub and a pool.
Oh, lovely.
So obviously sitting in the it's kind of like more like a bubble spa type, but not hot tubs tiny, but enough for like you could fit.
I didn't expect you to say that. That's
not
what I expected.
There's pictures of sitting in this bubble hot spa thing, kind of with the ice and the snow around us. It's amazing. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah,
You're nearly selling it to me. Nearly. So, what were the crew and the sort of expedition team like?
Excellent.
I know you sent me some photos and videos when you couldn't, but
excellent. The whole, all the crew were amazing. The actual expedition team were amazing as well, like from all over the world, but they knew their stuff. And the crew as well were excellent. We got a chance to go onto the actual bridge and meet the captain, and then they explained what they all did up there, and then myself and Melissa got an invite to go to kind of the heart of the ship, where I don't know what it's called. Engine room. That's it. You can see I'm not
pretty fundamental, really.
Not technically minded. And so that was great. There's only a few people who actually were invited to do that. So Melissa wasn't very well at the time, but I went to have a look at that, and that was amazing. That was really good.
The expedition team, you said they're very knowledgeable, but they were sharing knowledge. You had talks.
Oh yeah. Every day there was lectures, talks. You could access them all in this kind of science centre, which was fantastic. So you could go down there and sit and have. And quite often, actually, that's what I would do in the morning. I'd go and before everybody else would get up. I'd get up and go and have a cup of tea in the expedition centre and just sit quiet. It was really peaceful before everybody else got up, because there was like tea making. I didn't want to go up to the top deck. So
tea is very important.
Yes, exactly. I'd have to have my cup of tea in the morning. So I did that quite often. But what I really loved about the expedition team is they were from all over the world. They all had different specialities.
Yeah.
So we just learned so much. So if you do one of these cruises, absolutely make the most of that, because you will learn.
So it's educational.
I can identify 5 types of penguins, which I know that you mentioned.
That's very, very good. That's very impressive. So, typically on board ship, what do they look like with the Antarctica expedition? Well,
the first few days you had to get kitted out, so to make sure that your jacket fitted, you had to make sure that you had the right size muck boots. Now I've got quite wide calves, so I had a bit of a struggle with that to get ones that would actually fit around my calves. So that was I was a bit worried about that, thinking I won't be able to go ashore because I can't get muck boots to fit. But I did in the end. So you do that sort of thing. You kind of learn the routine of like breakfast, lunch, dinner. And also that you've got all their talks on. They give you lots of briefings about different things. It's amazing how quickly you get into a routine of what you do. Like, say every morning I'd go to the science centre and just have a cup of tea. And I'd plan kind of the day before. In fact, the evening before, they'd always have this is what's happening tomorrow meeting.
Oh, okay.
So you could go and have a briefing on exactly what was happening. So you could decide if you wanted to do a land, and you could decide which talks you wanted to go to. There was other fun things, like I made a penguin out of clay, and
as you do.
There was just like lots of things to do, and I used the sauna quite a lot. So because I was a bit concerned about just being on a boat, because it's not really my thing, but being bored. But actually, I wasn't bored.
But for that length of time on board a ship, that felt okay and comfortable.
Yeah, it felt okay. But I have to say, after the 2 weeks, I was ready to get off it.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
But the staff were great, all the staff, and I'm going to do a special shout out for all of the waiters, waitress, chefs, all the behind the scenes.
Yeah,
a lot of people there working on the ship from the Philippines, and they were spending a lot of time a lot of months and months and months working on the boats, and then going on to the next cruise ship before they were going home. And our Jonathan, who was our guy that kind of sorted out all the cabins on our floor, he was going home to the Philippines for Christmas, and he was so excited because he was going to see his 2 kids.
Oh, fantastic!
So it's lovely. But all the staff were absolutely fantastic. I will mention, because I'll talk a little bit about how Jonathan helped me in a second when I wasn't doing very well.
Now, this $1 million question I would have to ask: did you get seasick?
Hi travelers, I'm a friend of Tracy's, and I'm hosting a free online event that we think you'll love, because it's all about helping you plan a trip to Europe or the UK in 2026. I'm excited to bring together over 30 travel experts to share their insider recommendations with you, and Tracy will of course be talking about the UK in our Gem Destinations of 2026 session. This virtual conference is called the DIY Trip Summit Europe Beyond the Crowds, and it will be free to attend January 13 to 15 for all who register. So be sure to use Tracy's link to sign up. Our experts are not only covering up-to-date destination advice, but also sharing practical, tried and tested trip planning ideas so that you come away with strategies and tools that will make a big difference in your own trips, whether you're just visiting the UK or really anywhere that you want to go. So I've curated 3 days worth of inspiring and actionable presentations for you so you can learn which apps are essential to have, where to find deals, what rules are changing for visitors, as well as inspiration and insights for all types of trips, including road trips and camper vanning, the Camino and other lesser-known pilgrimages, travel with limited mobility, multi-generational trips with kids or grandkids, food and wine adventures, using miles and points, and more. Again, you can grab your free ticket through Tracy's link to get access to 3 days of our expert-led presentations, plus a pop-up Facebook group and live Zoom calls, so you can get your travel questions answered by our experts and interact with fellow travelers. If you're planning a trip in 2026, you won't want to miss the DIY Trip Summit. We designed it to help independent travelers like you feel secure in your plans. So whether you're traveling solo or bringing the grandkids, you'll walk away knowing how to plan smarter, spend wiser, and uncover moments that make your Europe or UK trip unforgettable. We hope to see you there.
I did, and I never get seasick. Never get seasick. But I made the fatal error. We did go through a really bad storm, actually, and I woke up and it was the creaking noise of kind of the cabin and the boat swaying, and I was kind of thought, I'm going to roll out of bed here. So this went on for a few hours, and then because it didn't really get dark there, that's another thing you've got to think about. It doesn't get dark. I put the put the light on, didn't have to, but I got my phone and I decided, this is R+5, I thought I'd just read stuff off my phone. Fatal error. Okay, fatal error. Normally I can read in a car. Normally I can read,
you can.
But I just, and I kind of, maybe I had 20 minutes and I was like, I don't feel great. Anyway, I went down for breakfast, had my breakfast, and I was just like, nah.
Did you manage to walk?
Oh, yeah. Well, walking is interesting. Like it's like how everything on the ship is geared for this happening, so nothing falls off and falls around except people getting the sea legs. It's amazing by the end of the trip.
Do you think that's true though, about getting sea legs?
Yes, you do. Absolutely, 100% you do. But anyway, so I went and had breakfast, and I was just like, no, not great. So I kind of sort of swayed my way back down to the cabin. I think Jonathan saw me, and I was just like, oh, I'm not well. And the next thing, he came knocking on the cabin door with a whole handful of sick bags, which I'd walked past. That was the one time I was ill. After that, I did take medication. After that, I hadn't taken any medication because I was over cocky, because I've been through rough seas and never been seasick. So make sure that
I've never known you.
Yeah, well, that was the one and only time.
Was that on the famous Drake Passage?
It was the Drake Passage, yeah. And the way back on the Drake Passage was absolutely fine. But on the way there, we did hit some rough seas.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons I was never even going to entertain.
Yeah, you would not
have. Videos of the Drake Passage.
Yeah, you wouldn't have liked that.
If somebody gets seasick on dry land, it probably would not be for me.
No, it would not have worked. It would not have worked. No. So I mean, it was really really good. It was, and like I think taking the medication just helped.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were a few people who were sick.
Well, you are married to a nurse, you know.
Yeah, exactly. But there were a few people who were ill and stayed in the cabin for a few days.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. So, what was the social life like on board?
Yeah, it was good. I was in it traveling with another group of Australians, so that was great. So mixing with all our group was fantastic. But also I met loads of people from all over the world, which was really cool as well. Lots of British people on the boat, other Australians on the boat, Americans on the boat.
Yeah, it's one thing we enjoy for travel generally, isn't it? Meeting people from different places.
Yeah, so it was good to kind of strike up conversations and chat with people. It was really good, yeah.
So one thing that people might not expect is how much learning happens on board.
Yeah.
So you've already alluded to the team on board. So the Science Centre you mentioned, and the expert programme. So tell me a bit about that.
It's really important. I think that's what I kind of want to reiterate if you do one of these cruises, that, you know, it's an expedition, but it's an expedition where you go and learn stuff as well, and you have access to the experts. Yeah. And that was fantastic. And as I say, from all over the world, and you can read, there was a screen which had the names on, and it would kind of scroll through, but it was fascinating kind of reading what they specialised in, where they studied. Yeah. And they all lived all over the world and kind of flew into Ushuaia to join the boat. Yeah.
So that's really important for the overall full experience to sort of embrace those experts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it is just integral to it. They were fantastic. They go on to the landings with you as well. They help you on with the landings because obviously sometimes a little bit getting out of the Zodiacs and onto land could be a little bit tricky.
Explain what you mean about Zodiacs. That's the little boats.
Yeah, the boats that you get off the boat. So you get off the boat onto a Zodiac, and then that would take you onto land.
Yeah.
So and then, fun.
So let's just talk about the biosecurity and protecting of Antarctica. That's really important. There's lots of rules that surrounding that as well.
Yeah, there is, and it's actually mandatory that you go to all of the briefings about what you need to not do. A lot of it is what you shouldn't do. Yet, for example, like anything that you take out that you wear has got to be vacuumed and cleaned before you can actually wear it, just in case there's any seeds or anything, in the lining of your coat or on the Velcro. So they clean all of that. You are not allowed to sit down. You're not allowed to crouch down. You're not allowed to get within 5 meters of any of the wildlife. If the wildlife comes towards you, you back off. Like things like penguin highways, I had no idea, but the penguins have highways.
You had to explain that to me.
It was crazy. It was amazing. And so you have to keep away. You've got to not stand in the middle of a penguin highway because you're going to block their access. So the animals get right of way and right of access over you at all points. And they're really strict on that, which they have to be, and they did that really, really, really well, and everybody respected that because nobody wants to destroy what is a pristine nature.
No, absolutely.
In Antarctica and protect
it. Didn't detract from the experience.
Oh, absolutely
in any
not. Way. Absolutely not. I mean, everybody follows the rule. Everybody respects the rules. Because that's why we were allowed to go there, because of that. And so, it's fantastic that they do have that. In fact, I wouldn't want to go on a cruise that didn't have that. In fact, they're not allowed to if they don't do all that stuff.
So about the actual, so you arrive after your cruise, you've arrived in Antarctica. There's several different places you went to. So how does that actually work when the ship arrives into the bay? Yeah,
you kind of arrive at Antarctica and you go through this channel called the Lemaire Channel. I think it's also called the Kodak Channel because people take photos, and it's amazing because you know you've arrived in Antarctica. We kind of traveled around for quite a few days, and we did 5 landings. But so you obviously have to move between the places that you stop
all
off.
Wow moments, weren't
Oh, just all amazing, absolutely fantastic, and all very different actually. Yeah. But we were also incredibly lucky, and the captain of our ship said this when we had like a night when all the crew were introduced, and he said that no matter how many journeys he's done, that we had the most incredible weather that he's never seen before. We literally had 4 days of blue sky and sunshine. The 5th day was overcast, but we were kind of in this old whaling station, so it kind of suited that kind of inside this kind of caldera. I think it's an active volcano. So some people did the polar plunge. I didn't. I kind of regret not doing it, but I chickened out, and I reckon the water's a little bit warmer in there than it would be.
Possibly so. Yeah, but I saw the weather in the photos. I mean, I was jealous at this point. Not the jealous of the getting there, but the jealous of being there.
Well, you couldn't take bad photographs. I wish I'd taken more. I thought I took loads, but I honestly wish I'd taken so many more. I did take a lot, but not only just when you're doing the landings, just from the boat. Like we had whales, we had killer whales, we saw seals, we saw penguins, all from the boat. So you didn't have to do the landings to see those. And we saw this, I think it was about 5 pods of killer whales chasing after a couple of humpback whales, which was amazing to see. So we've got video of that. So you could go on deck and everybody would be up on deck and taking videos, taking photos.
Fantastic.
So it was amazing. So you didn't always have to leave the boat to see things.
No, if you didn't want to.
Yeah.
So just describe the emotions that first time you're off the boat and you actually step onto the land there.
Oh, that was incredible. It just is amazing. I cannot explain a couple of things. I guess the pureness of, apart from where you see all the penguin pee. Penguin pee.
Well, skip that part.
The pureness of just the landscapes. And the colours, because you've got these, like the icebergs are all sorts of different colours, from this beautiful azure blue to pure white. And then we have the blue sky, as I say, and it's just an enormous environment, and you're like this tiny little person in this beautiful expanse.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And so when you land, like you have to follow paths. So this is where
Yes.
the crew, they go on and they put paths that you have to stay in those areas.
Yeah.
So you kind of, and you could have poles. So I use poles, and so they do talk about which is the route to follow, so that you can go and see kind of the penguin colonies or whatever there was to see. Like one bit, we walked at the top of a hill to see this like iceberg graveyard. Which I got a fantastic photo.
I like the video and the photo of you, your whole group standing on sort of a shore area, being held sort of ransom by 3 penguins who were standing on the highway and wouldn't let you off.
Well, I was, they'd actually landed at the Zodiacs. I was at this point, I'd climbed kind of off the beach and was on the snow, but there was a penguin highway that kind of cut across, and these 2 penguins just stood there, and they kind of looked at everybody. You could feel that they were kind of going, whatever. And so everybody was standing there taking photos. They couldn't get off the beach because they just blocked. That's what I was saying. The penguins got there. They had the right of way.
It's their land.
Yeah, so it was funny, but
so you made several landings. So how do this differ from each other?
Well, we land in different places. So the last one we did was a whaling station. We landed on a couple of islands, and then we landed on kind of mainland Antarctica. I will say that, that you're assigned a group when you first arrive on the boat. And so they call everybody down by group. So I was a humpback whale. So they call you down, say to get prepped, and then you go down to, and I should remember the name of it because they said it, the place where you go and catch the boat. And I can't remember it. And I'm sure everybody's listening going, it's called Watch and Watch. Anyway, where you go and get onto the boat, because you have to go and you have to get tapped onto the boat, off the boat. Okay. Then when you come back on the boat, you have to have your boots washed. Because you get muck boots, everything has to be washed. They're really strict. So you got on the Zodiac in your group, and then when the Zodiac would land, would take you where you could actually access the land. So climb off the Zodiac, and then sometimes you had to kind of go up steps, but like out of the snow. So it was a bit icy. Sometimes it was a bit slippery. So if you got to think about mobility. I guess if you got limited mobility, it could be a bit challenging. But there would people were there to help you. And then of course you could have the poles and use the poles to get around because it could be quite slippery. So
it's a pretty slick operation.
Very well organized. And then you'd spend your hour or whatever, and then you'd go back on the Zodiac and then back to the boat. And at this point, all groups. So this would happen over a day. So the first time we went out late in the day, like maybe 6:30, and people had been going all day. And then the next one we were kind of early afternoon, and then by the end of it we kind of were the first group. So everybody goes out, you get a turn to go out wherever you go. So the next landing you might be afternoon rather than later.
You don't choose the slot yourself, just in that group that you allocated.
And they rotate the time. So
that's good.
So everybody gets a chance to go out at a different time,
or a chance to see the wildlife. So you mentioned most of what you saw. Is there anything else? There's all these different types of
so many different types of penguins, chin-strap penguins, macaroni penguins. I know. I can't even think. I've just got it in my head now. All the different types of penguins.
One.
Chin-strap penguins, macaroni penguins. I'm trying to think of the one that was so most of, and that's gone out of my head. But anyway, there's lots of penguins, lots of birds, like skewer birds, who are the ones that steal the eggs and steal the penguin chicks. Adelie penguins, that's another one. And then the main penguin is the one I can't remember the name of, which we saw lots of. It's amazing how badly they smell though. And also the poo on each other, which is like they just poo and it just flies, and it just, if the neighbours stand behind them, they just get covered in the poo.
Well, fair enough.
It's just gross.
It's their way.
It's just gross. So like, you see where the penguins are, there's just, so when we were there, they were starting to nest. So you'd see like penguins pinching stones off one another, and they'd like waddle around, make the nest, and then another penguin would come in and pinch it, and then it was so funny.
Well, you shattered one of my illusions. I had this idea that penguins were super graceful at all times.
No.
Considering how many videos I've seen of yours them falling over.
Oh, bless them. They just fall over all the time. You just like, it's literally like 3 steps, bang, off the go on the floor again, bang, a couple more steps, bang, and then it's just honestly up, down, up, down, up, down. They're just, and the poor things, they walk miles as well, but then you see them in the water.
Is that miles to go and pinch stones?
No, they just go around to the other side of where the kind of the nesting area is. They're just going to nick somebody else's stones. It's so funny.
Right, okay. Well, share and share alike, I suppose.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned nice weather there. So you got your protective clothes that you're wearing. So just in a nutshell, all the clothes that you wore, because obviously you don't want to overheat.
Yeah, that was an issue actually. And after the first expedition, they kind of came on the tannoy and said, look, people are saying that it's very, very warm, so don't wear too many layers. I tended, literally what I wore just about every single landing, I just wore, I had a thermal long sleeve top and a thermal trousers, and I just put waterproof trousers over the top and my the jacket. So they give you get muck boots to go out because you've got to land wearing these muck boots. And HX gave us a coat which we got at the end of the trip as well. And I would just wear that. I honestly had hat, gloves, scarf, the full works.
I saw you packing before you
Yeah,
went.
I mean sometimes that was useful on the Zodiac getting in because it's a little bit colder. And obviously that last day when we were at the whaling station was a bit chillier. Yeah. But to be honest, I actually went and bought some gloves at the shop because there's a shop on board, and I never wore them. I literally never wore them. In fact, if anything, I probably took too much. The best thing that I took is waterproof trousers. You've got to have waterproof trousers anyway. But I'd actually looked at buying like ski pants before I went. Yes. That would have been a complete mistake. I would have died of heat exhaustion. Yeah. So literally just the waterproof trousers was absolutely fine with a pair of, as I say, just having the thermal top and thermal. That was it. That's all I needed.
Oh, well. Can you recall any of the sort of temperatures there? But it was mild. When the sun comes out, it was warm.
There's a picture of me sitting on deck with a short-sleeved shirt on.
Yeah.
And, get sunburned. You have to have sunglasses are essential. Sun cream was essential.
Take sunblock with you.
Absolutely. For your lips and for your face, because obviously you think the sun reflecting off the snow.
That's right.
And off the sea, you can get burnt. But yes, the temperatures it was not cold. I wasn't cold at one point, not at all.
So there's a few things you took you didn't actually use or need then, really.
Yeah, probably more the gloves. I think I went overboard with gloves, and I wore my hat quite often, especially going out on the Zodiac, and then I just put it in my pocket. One thing as well to take is have a small backpack. Now you cannot put anything down on that snow.
Yes.
So if you want to take clothes off, you need to have something to put it into. So I just had a small backpack. So I put my hat and my gloves, my scarf in there when I didn't need them.
Okay, so you can't take food or drink on.
No, absolutely not. Water, yes, I think so, but nothing. No food or drink, nothing. No, you're not allowed to.
So people make the assumption that you have to buy everything yourself and take with you. You've already mentioned they provide for certain things.
Yeah.
So just sort of summarise the things that they provide for you.
So muck boots. So those are the big kind of rubber boots that you need to land, and those are the ones that get cleaned.
Yes.
And actually, at the end of the trip, you have to hand them because they have to clean everything out of them. And then the jacket, but you kept to keep the jacket at the end.
Yeah.
So those are the two things. The rest of the stuff I took with me. I think I wore everything. Like I had a couple of different thermal long sleeve tops that I wore, and I did have like a Uniqlo kind of bra top that I wore underneath. Right. So I guess that layer as well. But the worst thing I didn't want to overheat.
No.
Because there was nowhere to. Really, apart from a backpack, you couldn't. It's difficult to take stuff off, and that was more of an issue than actually being too cold. Is actually overheating.
Yeah, but the weather could have been so much different.
Oh, absolutely, and it was. Apparently, the cruise before ours, the weather was awful. So
did you say somebody had been on a cruise before and they came back?
Yeah, and they got off and got on ours because the weather was so bad on theirs. They got on ours, so I bet they were patting themselves on the back for that because we had the best weather.
I bet they were. Yeah. So look at some of the highlights. So. What was your favourite landing or moment from the entire trip?
Oh, I think the landings were all amazing, I have to say. There is one landing, there's two landings that stand out. One we landed on, I think it was a Chilean base, and we got off and walked up the hill, and I've got some fantastic pictures from that. And the other one was another landing we did. Again, it was just that the scenery was so amazing, kind of walking up this hill, and that was where the iceberg graveyard was, and there was kind of different types of penguins to see. But again, it's just seeing that huge expanse of Antarctic continent beauty. It's just like it really does take your breath away.
Yeah. I can
so that out of the landings, those were the two. Actually, I have to say the Whale Bay was an interesting one because like it used to be an old whaling station, which thank goodness they don't have anymore. But that was kind of a bit spooky and some surreal, really interesting photos from there because there was like a volcanic, I think not an eruption, but you can see where the scientific base was basically abandoned.
Yes. So was there any one moment which you can say, I can't believe I'm here, or is that my terminology, a wow moment?
Yeah, when I went kayaking, which I know everybody else thought was... So I actually booked to go kayaking and I chickened out. And then I
cannot believe that. Times I've asked you to go kayaking with me and the answer's been no.
And I was like, no, because I'm a bit scared of open water where I can't see. But actually I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And oh my goodness, it was the best experience. There was a lovely lady from the UK called Maggie. Hello, Maggie, if you listen to this, who was sharing. And thank God she was with me, because I have absolutely no coordination, and we would have just gone round and round in circles in this canoe. But I have to say, and we were on the blow up one, so we didn't do the one where we went further away with kind of the crew. This is the one kind of where we were just in a certain area. But before we actually were allowed to kind of go out and about and kind of explore, we had a leopard seal in the area close by, and so they had to make sure that had left before, because they're dangerous. And huge. I couldn't believe the size of it. So they had to wait. We had to wait about maybe 20, 30 minutes before that kind of left the area, and they were happy for us to go out and that it was safe. But it was so cool because the penguins were kind of like swimming alongside the kayak, and it was just... and also just so silent, so peaceful.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's lovely.
I took some fantastic photos of a lovely couple from America who were out on the canoes as well, and on the kayaks. And they took a picture of me as well, which is sent. I took some video of them as well. In fact, I've still got them on my WhatsApp. I'll tell them about this podcast, so they need to listen to it. So big shout out to you guys. It was lovely to meet you and take those pictures when we were out kayaking. But I think that was a highlight for me.
That was it there. Yeah. So the Falkland Islands were also included in the trip. Yeah. So what was that part of the journey like?
To be honest, I could have given that a skip, and I know that's sad, but I think after the beauty of Antarctica, it was just like I don't know. The Falklands was interesting, and I'm not going to regret going, because it's not somewhere that many people go to.
That's right.
And it was okay, and I enjoyed it, and it was different because I think it was more kind of probably focused on the bird life.
Yeah.
It was interesting going to Stanley though, because I had a walk around there.
Yeah.
Learned a little bit more about the island itself, the people that live on the island. But I guess by that point, it was kind of nearing the end of the trip, and I would probably have been happy to have just gone back to Ushuaia. And I knew a few people said at that point as well, they're kind of, I had enough now. But so that for me, and I know there's another cruise where you can do South Georgia and then go to Falklands and then go back to Ushuaia, and I don't think I would have managed that.
No, fair enough then. Yeah. Well, that's really good. Thank you for sharing all that. So what really surprised you about the whole experience,
Oh, just that it was so worth it, because I mean, it's very expensive. Going to Antarctica is not cheap. So you immediately, you have to kind of weigh it up. So I was like, is this going to be worth it? It's a long way to go. It's a lot of flying and a lot of flying back. But I was just, it was worth it. Every cent, it was absolutely worth it. And it's a magical experience that will stay with me forever, for sure.
Sure.
I haven't come back changed. I know some people say, "Oh, it changes you forever." It hasn't changed me in any way, shape, or form. But it just is somewhere so different to anywhere I've been before.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that sort of hits you really.
Yeah.
But what about if somebody's considering listening to this and thinking about it and weighing it up? Anything you'd like to sort of sway them, or just
go,
suggest them?
Just go.
Just do it.
I would go, and also I don't know where it's going to go in terms of the amount of tourism that is now going in Antarctica. So a couple of things I guess I'd say is, yes, if you want to go, I would do it, because there may be a time when, and I don't know, they're quite strict about who visits, but we did notice a lot of boats that seem to be leaving Ushuaia, and we're like, it's a lot. So we went with HX Expedition. Now, they are excellent. They are really, really, really good. So, if you're going to do this, check out who you are going to book it with, so that you make sure, for example, our boat was electric. So, there was just so much thought into making sure, like, environmentally, considering the impact, because there's going to be an impact. There's thousands of people landing on Antarctica now. So I would consider that. Just make sure who you book with, that you check.
Do your homework.
Yeah, do your homework. But I would absolutely, and I know the last question you're going to say was, was it worth it? And I'm going to say 100%.
It has to be, yeah.
It was absolutely worth it. I really loved it. I'd like to spend, I guess, more time, because when I look on a map and think, we saw a lot, we saw literally, we saw like the tip of an iceberg. Well, of course it is an iceberg, because Antarctica is a continent. So it's like Arctic is just ice, but Antarctica is actually, it is ground, earth, I don't know what the word is, underneath it.
Terra firma.
Yeah, terra firma, underneath all the ice. I did see the impact of global warming as well, which was kind of a bit of a sobering thing.
Yeah, sure.
But I think, just go, just enjoy it, relish every second, take lots and lots of photos and videos.
Can never be too many.
No,
not. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with me.
Well, thank you for asking the questions. Thanks a lot. Thanks for Doug. Right, I'm going to be passing over to the next segment of the show. So thanks to Doug for agreeing to chat with me about my experience in Antarctica. But I also want to share a couple of other perspectives from the trip. So first of all, you hear from Karen, who lives in tropical North Queensland, which is a completely different environment, of course, from Antarctica. And then you're going to hear from David, who shares his reflections on the wildlife, the landscapes, and what it was like to travel to the end of the world. Okay, let's start with Karen. Hi, Karen. Thanks so much for agreeing to come onto the podcast and talk a little bit about our recent trip to Antarctica. Would you like to just quickly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you are, what you do, and a little bit of your motivation for choosing to go to Antarctica?
Welcome, Tracy. I'm from Mackay in North Queensland, so in the tropics, and I have this fascination for snow and ice. And as you know, you don't get that in the tropics. So anywhere there's snow and ice, I'm there. So Antarctica has always been on my bucket list. But I think the Drake Passage put me off for many years until I finally decided to pull my big girl pants on and go, I can do this. And I'm so pleased that I did.
I know we had a fantastic trip, didn't we? The Drake Passage was certainly something that was on my mind when I booked it, I have to tell you. And we didn't have too bad a crossing, did we?
We were really fortunate, yeah.
Oh, we were. So obviously before going to Antarctica, we all have these kind of preconceived ideas of what it's going to be like. But was there anything in particular that surprised you about being in Antarctica?
It was kind of hard because we really didn't have a set itinerary. Once we got to Antarctica, there was no set itinerary. And it was like, well, what are we going to do when we get there? It seemed to be this big mystery. But once we got there, every day they had something planned and every day was exciting. It really was. So I think it was the not knowing at first about what was going to happen was different to all my other trips that I've done over the many, many years.
Yeah, and Antarctica itself, was there anything that you expected and didn't see, or anything that you didn't expect and kind of went, wow, this is kind of amazing?
I had a checklist of penguins that I wanted to see because I was one of these type A personalities that did some research, and I did an introductory course through the Tasmanian University, Introduction to Antarctica. And so I learnt about all the different penguins that you can see, and I had a checklist that I wanted to do, and unfortunately I missed the chin straps and I missed the king penguin.
Oh, well, you know what?
That means I can always go back again.
I was about to say, you know what that means, Karen, and you beat me to it. Well, I know that this is probably a difficult question, but is there one moment, because there's probably many, but is there one moment that you know you will never, ever forget about being in Antarctica?
Yes. Oh, there were many moments. Let's be honest about that. There were many, many moments. But the one that stood out in my brain was we were in this channel, and because we're on a hybrid ship, there was no engine noise. It was quiet, and the water was perfectly still. It was clear as, the sun was shining, you could see all the ice around, white as, the sky was blue, the water was clear, and you look down over the side of the ship and you can hear the noise of the whales as they come up and they breathed out. Felt like they were sitting right beside you. And then they'd glide down under the water. You could still see them under the water, and then they'd come back up again. So we saw orcas, saw humpback whales, saw minke whales, all in this one channel, and it was awe-inspiring. No other word for it.
Absolutely incredible. I think it's quite hard to even describe it, and even looking at the photos now, it doesn't capture it, does it? It doesn't matter how much you want to, it just doesn't. It's really difficult. If I was to ask you to describe Antarctica in 3 words, what would you say?
Wild. Wild is probably the first one that comes to mind. Because everything when you go down there is totally dependent on the weather. It's whether it's snowing, whether it's fine, whether it's windy, how many icebergs there are, and that all determines exactly where the trip goes. So it's wild. And of course it's wild with animals, and you get up close and personal. And I mean, I've never been a bird watcher as such, but I found myself fascinating looking out from my bedroom window, just watching birds flying past, thinking, oh, I should take a photo. And of course, you miss them because they just dive away again. Yeah, wild. Just to get up close to nature and to appreciate nature. I think that was really there. Okay, sorry, I'm rambling on as usual. Beautiful. Ah. Every day it's jaw-droppingly beautiful. It really is. But then again, we were extremely fortunate with our weather. The sun shone. It was just magnificent. The captain of the ship kept saying, you don't always get this weather. We were so fortunate. And the other one to me was magical. Opening up the window curtain because it's sunlight 24/7 or daylight 24/7. So every morning you'd open up the curtains to see what was outside. And I had to laugh one day. My sister opened the curtain and went, oh, we've got the Matterhorn outside today, because there was this big snow-covered mountain right beside the ship. And that's just how you felt. So they're my 3 words.
No, I think they're perfect. I think they're fantastic words, Karen, and absolutely right. I think it was. I think opening those blinds, those curtains every morning, and knowing that what you were going to see was going to be mind blowing, but different every day as well was fabulous, wasn't it? Absolutely. Now I'm hoping that this podcast will inspire others to want to visit Antarctica. I know it's for many people. It is a once in a lifetime bucket list destination. Have you got any a tip that you would share with somebody who might be planning to visit for the first time?
Okay, I'm going to be boring and say, you've got to do it. It's one of the most remote places in the world. And if you get the opportunity, go. It's fantabulous. It's awe-inspiring. It's magical. And as long as you have the right clothing, it's because it's cold. Let's be honest. You'd stick your head out the door and go, oh, I need another layer today. So as long as you have all the right gear before you go, so your woolen thermals that don't smell, because you can wear them for 3 or 4 days easy before they get a smell going, your gloves, your sunglasses, your beanies, as long as you've got the right clothing, then you're right to step outside onto the balcony and be part of nature and be part of out there. And the other thing is to be ready for adventure, because there is no set itinerary. Every day they'll say, well, depending on the wind and the weather, whether we're going to do this or that. And I think people have to be flexible enough to go, all right, let's just see what tomorrow brings and let's see where we go and what we get to do. So you've got to bring a sense of adventure and some really good clothing. Does that kind of fit the brief?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does, and every day was an adventure, wasn't it?
It was.
It really was. It really was. It was fantastic. It was brilliant. So thanks so much, Karen, for coming on and agreeing to share a little bit of your thoughts about our recent trip.
I can always rave about holidays and travel, always. So thank you. It was great.
Right, David, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do and that sort of thing?
Yes. So I'm Dave Dale, 43 years of age, live in Redcliffe, north of Brisbane in Queensland, Australia. I'm a police officer and on a trip to Antarctica with my partner.
Yeah, and having a fantastic time and with the group as well. So actually, I've got 4 questions which I gave you, but I'm going to sneak one up on you. What was the reason, what was the decision behind coming to Antarctica?
So the reason for coming to Antarctica was based from colleagues of my partner who had been to Antarctica last year. They thoroughly enjoyed their experience, and it was through their recommendation we booked to be on this trip now.
So was it one of you that was more keen on it, or were you both kind of like, yeah, this sounds like a really good place to go to?
So initially, JP was very keen on it, and obviously he had the personal recommendation of his colleagues who shared their wonderful experiences. I balked at it initially due to the cost, but sometimes these experiences should not be affected by cost.
Yeah, that's true, because it is not the cheapest place to come to on the planet, that's for sure.
No.
obviously you had expectations before you came, but what has surprised you the most about visiting Antarctica?
The thing that surprised me the most about visiting Antarctica is quite a personal one. It has to do with me being in Antarctica. I remember as a child at the state school I went to, we learned a lot about Antarctica and the early explorers and how it was a very confronting and trying landscape. And so for me, it was a personal one.
And it's kind of, I don't know about you, but it's kind of one of those places that when you were a kid, just didn't seem that it would be possible for us to ever go and visit. It was kind of out of the realms of kind of somewhere that normal, ordinary people could get to. It was a bit of a kind of explorer thing. Did you have that?
Yes, I did have. You've described it perfectly. Antarctica always seemed to be one of those places that we knew existed, we never could get to. And I feel quite privileged that I myself have come to Antarctica.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those, a place that I know I'm not going to forget about. And I think it does leave an impression on you. Is there, and I know there's probably millions of moments that you can probably think of, but is there one particular moment that will always stay with you from this trip that you're never going to forget?
The polar plunge. I was one of the people to do the polar plunge. But apart from that and being frozen from the outside in, I think for me it was going on to the mainland of Antarctica at Brown Station, an Argentine post, which is part of the mainland, and just being there sort of all brought it home that I was actually in Antarctica.
It was very cool. That's use a pun.
Yes.
But also it was actually quite fun also watching you guys do the polar plunge, which I did chicken out of. But maybe if I ever make it back to Antarctica, I'll do it. But it certainly was fun watching you all go and freeze.
Yes.
Now, if you had to describe Antarctica in 3 words, I know this again is probably quite a difficult one, but have you got 3 words that you could use to describe it?
Confronting, wonderful, exhilarating.
Perfect. Now, I'm hoping that when people listen to this podcast, they're going to be thinking, I'm going to save my pennies and I'm going to get myself to Antarctica. So, and something that I always ask on my podcast is one tip that you would share for someone who's visiting a destination for the first time. So obviously, there's not a lot of people that can make it to Antarctica, but hopefully some of the people listening to the podcast will.
Yes.
So what would be the one tip that you would share with them when they visit?
Be open about it and expect anything.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much, David. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
No dramas. Thank you.
Antarctica is often described as wild, remote, and unforgettable. And after experiencing it for myself and hearing from others who shared the journey, I'd say all of those things are true. But what really stood out to me is how personal the experience was. Everyone noticed something different, whether it was the wildlife, the silence, the scale of the landscape, or simply the feeling of being somewhere so far removed from everyday life. If this episode has sparked your curiosity, you'll find links to the expedition, the ship, and photos from the trip in the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com/episode 88. If you've enjoyed the episode, please make sure you're following the podcast and consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app. It really does help more people find the show. As always, thanks so much for listening, and until next time, happy global travel planning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.